Okay, so what I thought for today is to take this A-Level 2020 paper and just cover chapter 1 MCQs and essay questions. After we finish this, there's a, depending on the time, we'll be having a live 10 or 15 MCQ Kahoot challenge. Okay, where after each of the questions, once done, we'll go through the discussion of that question. Okay, so today we'll be covering about 5 or 6 MCQs in this paper, and then the whole part 2 essay question, and then 10 or 15 MCQs from chapter 1. That's the plan for today. Cool, shall we start? Okay, right. So this is A-Level 2020 paper, and this is the MCQ, so you have a question and then 5 answers, and that's nothing new for you. So look at the first question and tell me what's the answer. So when you're answering, make sure what you are giving or sending is the final answer, right? Because I will take it, the first answer that comes from you, I will take it as that's the answer you will give in your A-Level, because in your A-Level you can't change it once you have given the answer. No, that is once the paper is gone. As long as it's with you, you can cut, chop, and do something. But once you take that answer sheet where you have to cross off the numbers, there you can't play with it, right? So make sure you decide the answer first. Maybe on the exam paper like this, you will be getting that, no, and then you will have a separate answer sheet just to mark your answers. So in this question paper, you can cut, chop, and do whatever you want, all the workings and everything. But answer all the questions in here. Once done, go through it again, whether you have answered them correctly, and check it. If you have any changes, make the changes in this question paper. Once that is done, go to the answer sheet and neatly mark them. Okay, don't go and chop stuff in the answer sheet. It can get too messy because there are like 5 boxes. In those 5 boxes, you have to choose one. So if you already marked one and then cut it off and go and mark another one, it's going to be a mess, right? Have you done that in your O-Level? For your O-Levels, when you did the MCQs, did you do that? I think some might have done that some do, but don't do it. Don't have that habit, okay? I also remember doing it once or something. I'm not sure though. Okay, so that's that. And one more thing I want to say now itself, right? These MCQs you have in past papers, especially as a student who is going to sit for 2022 or 2023 A-Levels, right? Now, when you take a past paper, you have limited amount of past papers actually that you can, completely do, right? Maybe you might do for the last 10 years past papers or 15 years. It doesn't matter. But whenever you are doing a question, always do it as if you are doing your exam, right? Give all you have got when you're doing a question. And then after answering, if you want, to check whether it's correct or wrong, go and check the answer scheme. Don't just look at a question and without even thinking whether you know the answer or not, don't go to the answer scheme and look at the answer. For MCQs and essay questions, both alike, I'm saying. Because all these questions you have are chances for you to evaluate yourself. Don't miss that. Okay, some students might do that. They will look at a question and then just go and look at the answer, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, why this is the answer? Don't do that, because you are losing out on the evaluation part of yourself. Right? You might be able to read the question and then learn something, but you should first know whether you know to answer this question or not. That is the most important part. So hereafter, when you are doing an, any past paper or any model paper, always attempt it first. Whether you know it or not, attempt to answer it first, mark the answer, then go to the scheme and check whether it's right or wrong. Make that a habit hereafter. Okay, so for this question, as you can see, a free good has which one of the following characteristics? So first of all, what is another name for free good? Right, non-economic goods. Right, okay, that we all know now. Now, when you read the question itself, before even looking at the answer, in your head, like I always say, bring up all the characteristics and definition of non-economic good. So pretty much you'll be like, okay, they are non-scarce, pretty much unlimited in availability. No resources are used in production, no opportunity cost in production, no rivalry in consumption, and zero price. And they are all natural as well. So now look at the answers. You look at the first one, it has some degree of scarcity in relation to demand. No, that's out. Why? Because we know non-economic goods, free goods are non-scarce. They are not scarce at all. First answer says it has some degree of scarcity, so that's out. Second answer says it has no opportunity cost in supply. So when you went through the characteristics in your head, when you revised or brought all those characteristics back into your, kind of the front of the mind, what did you get? The second point or the third point is no opportunity cost in production. That's what the second answer is saying. It has no opportunity cost in supply. When it comes to the supply of these non-economic goods, sunlight or air, right, nothing is given up because they are completely natural. No resources are used in production. So no opportunity cost in supply. So that is the answer. That is the answer. I saw some of you said answer number 1. I believe now you might have understood why answer number 1 is not the answer. And I think someone said answer 3 and then changed it to 2. Answer 3 is about externality. Okay. Externality is something that we don't include as a characteristic of non-economic good or economic good. Okay, externality is another concept that you might learn in detail. In which chapter? Any idea? Externalities. In chapter number 8. That's where you will learn about externality in detail. And externality means whenever there's a consumption or production done, right? If a third party is getting affected by that production or consumption, that's called externality. For example, let's say I'm smoking here. For example, I'm saying, let's say I'm smoking. So I'm the one who is paying the money and I'm the one who is smoking. But there are a few people around me who are not involved in that consumption of mine. They don't have anything to do with my consumption. But when I'm smoking, they cough sometimes. They get this smell. Sometimes they might not like it. That effect on these third party when I smoke is an externality. Likewise, let's say I have a cement factory now. Now I'm producing cement, but people surrounding that factory, living in the surroundings of that factory, they might hear noises, they might get polluted air, they might get sick because of this production of cement and all this pollution it creates. So production is what I do, but because of my production, these third parties living nearby are becoming sick. That is an externality. So that's what externality is. You will learn that in detail in chapter 8. When we do chapter 8 questions, obviously you will come across a lot of externality related questions. So that's not something that defines non-economic goods, right? Externality can come from non-economic and economic goods. So that's not something that has the possibility of becoming the answer for this question. So that is also out. And you see the fourth and the fifth are very obvious. Government is supplying free of charge. If the government supplies, that's okay. Someone has unmuted themselves. It is supplied by government free of charge. If the government is supplying, it becomes an economic good because human intervention is there. Again, the fifth answer is also same. Government is supplying means human effort is there, so it's going to be economic good. Answer is answer number 2. And this question, how many times you have done this by now? In your A-level 1 year or 2 year experience, a question like this, how many times you have done? Just more than 2-3 times. I'd say more than at least 10 times by now. No, because you might have done this in class, you might have done this in school. Here itself, I think we have done this about 2-3 times. In these 5 sessions I have done, in that itself I have done twice minimum. So in your 2-year A-level 2022 students or 2023 ones 1 year A-level experience, pretty much, you might have done this at least, I would say 10 times. Yes or no? Yeah, then you can't make mistakes here anymore, right? Because like I said, you have done this so many times now, you can't mistake the answer for these questions, free good or economic good. Okay, cool. And anyway, about 95% of you in the first try itself gave the right answers, and others also, when they answered something else, they came back to the right answer. Happy about that. Second question. Economists refer the term capital exclusively to. That means in economics, right, economists give the term capital referring only to which of the following 5 answers. So again, this is a question where you don't have to look at the answers. In your head, capital in economics is what? Get the definition right onto the, onto your top of the mind or something. Capital means what? Man-made resources used in production. That's what capital is. So look at the first answer, human-made goods which are used to produce other goods and services, right? Man-made goods which are used to produce other goods and services. So pretty much that's what the definition of capital is. If you look at the second, third, and the fourth answer, money used to purchase capital, savings accumulated by household to purchase capital, money used by an entrepreneur to purchase capital, all those three are just money being an exchange medium used to purchase capital. So money, we know, is not capital in economics. That's what is tested in this, because that's why three answers are referring to money here. And the fourth answer, real estate, forest, metals, and mineral resources. What are those? They are land, right? They are land, natural resources used in production. So the answer to this question is pretty easy. The first one. Cool. Right. So up until these two questions, again, you can see this. This is A-level 2020 paper. And before, some of you might have done this already. But if it's the first time, you might realize these two questions you might have done already somewhere in a slightly way, in a slightly different way, right? Because we have done questions where free goods, what are the characteristics? Based on that, we have done questions already in these sessions itself, right? We have done questions where talking about capital in economics, not including money not being a factor of production in economics. So when you do these questions, when you go to classes, when you go through, do monthly quizzes or, term exams or past paper classes, or you going through past papers or any model paper, you might come across similar questions only, because you can't, there's, the syllabus is limited, right? There's a few concepts in your whole A-level syllabus, right? Not unlimited amounts of concepts, limited. And how many questions you can ask for an A-level student, that is also limited, right? You can't ask a question, let's put it this way, you can't ask an undergraduate or master's postgraduate level question to an A-level student. So the questions you get are going to be up to a certain difficulty only. So that is one limitation. And the syllabus is also limited. So what kind of questions you can get, they also become limited. Because of that, the same set of questions are cycled in and out every year. Sometimes the same question from the last year or 2 years back might come here in a slightly different way. That's why every teacher would say you always do past papers. Past paper questions is one source of you learning something, because when you practice this in your A-level, you might have questions looking very, very familiar for you. Okay. Third question, what is meant by the statement that every economic system faces the problem of scarcity? What's the answer? Right. Again, what is meant by the statement that every economic system faces the problem of scarcity? Now, again, without looking at the answers, what is scarcity? Limited resources we have, right, being relatively insufficient, not enough to fulfill unlimited wants. That is what scarcity is. That's the definition normally given for scarcity. So when you look at the answer, first one, the quantities available of some resources in the society exceed the demand for them, right? The quantity available of some resources in the society exceed the demand for them. Now, that is not scarcity directly, right? That is not scarcity. That is simply a shortage situation where there's an excess demand. They are saying supply is not the quantities available of some resources in society exceed the demand for them. No, it's the other way around. Not a shortage, but an excess demand, sorry, excess supply situation where they are saying supply exceeds the demand. So that's not scarcity problem. That's excess supply issue. Mineral deposits are available only in finite amounts in a country. Now, here the second point says resources, a certain resource is limited. Now, that's not scarcity. Resources being limited is not scarcity. Limited resources being not enough to fulfill unlimited wants, that is what scarcity is. Countries have failed to achieve full employment due to scarcity of resources. No. Even if there are very few limited resources, if those resources are completely optimally used, countries can achieve full employment. Right? So answer number 3 is also out. The productive resources are not sufficient to satisfy all wants of the society. That's what scarcity is by definition. But why did I go through all 3 first answers and then only go to the 4th? Because that's the process of you answering in your A level would be. Once you read the question, you'll go in order. No? First question you'll read and be like, no, this is not the answer. Out. Second question out. Sorry, second answer out. Third answer out. Then only you will come to the 4th. And then only you'll be like, okay, this is probably the answer, but you will mark it and then you'll be looking at the 5th one also. Economic systems have cyclically recurring expansionary phases during which scarcity of resources occurs. Economic systems have cyclically recurring expansionary phases during which scarcity of resources occurs. Now, this expansionary phase and stuff you learn in chapter number 5 under which concept? Where do you think you learn about this recurring cycle of expansionary phase? Very good, Shifana. In macroeconomics, under which concept? Rimaz? Nazrat? Afra? Very good, Kanishka. Under something called the business cycle. Why is that, Inusha? It's called the business cycle, right? So business cycle is the cyclical presentation of the changes in real GDP over time. That is business cycle. In business cycle, we have 4 stages. What are those 4 stages you see in business cycle? What are the stages you see in business cycle? Recession, From there, you go to trough. From there, you go to expansion. From there, you go to peak. From there, you go back to recession. So this is business cycle. And in this business cycle, this expansionary phase, again, it will repeatedly happen. No, every time the cycle, keeps on, how to put it? Every time this cycle keeps on happening again and again and again, this expansionary phase will come again and again and again. And the expansionary cycle is where the real GDP starts to increase. That's what expansion means. GDP is increasing. That's not only when we see scarcity. Scarcity is an always existing issue. As long as resources are limited and we have unlimited wants, there will be scarcity, not just during expansionary phase, but during peak, recession, and trough also we have scarcity, right? The answer for this question is answer 4. One more thing I want to say. Now, sometimes what happens is when you are doing an MCQ, for these questions, obviously, you know scarcity, the definition, you mark it and move on because you study about this very early in your A levels. For some questions, some people think if out of the 5 answers, if a certain answer is kind of big, right? It has lots of words. When you read it, it might seem like it makes some sense. In some instances like that, you might lean towards that big answer, thinking that might be the correct answer. Has it ever happened to you? Do you sometimes think like that? When you have a very big answer, let's say the other 4 are small, very small sentences, but just one answer is there. It's like it takes about, it's like a paragraph, 3 lines or something, huge. Do you feel like that should be the correct answer when you read it? So everyone is saying yes. Sometimes that might be the correct answer. That has been true sometimes, right? In when I have done my O levels and A levels, but that's not gonna be the determinant. The size of the answer doesn't decide whether it's right or not. Every time, read the answer correctly and then understand it and compare it with the question and see whether it's right or wrong. Okay, so in this case, answer is answer number 4. Even though answer 5 might seem like a convincing argument, it's not. Okay, and also one more thing I want to say. You can see here, even though this is a question from which chapter? Chapter 1, right? We know that because scarcity comes in the first chapter and we are doing the third question. No, so it's a chapter 1 based question, but the question is based in chapter 1, but the answers need not have concepts only related to chapter 1, right? That's why you see the 5th answer, you study about these expansionary cyclical behavior of economy in chapter 5, right? So someone who has only studied chapter 1 and who is trying to do this might feel like they don't understand what is this answer number 5 is talking about. Same goes with a previous question we did where there was externality given as the answer. We might not know what that is. But when you are doing an A level, you should understand this. When you are doing A level exams, you have studied all 12 chapters. So any question can have answers from any chapter, right? Based on concepts from any chapter can be included in all the questions. The chances are there. So you need to understand sometimes just by studying chapter 1, you can't answer chapter 1 questions. You might have to have a knowledge on all chapters so that every single question you will identify, okay, to this concept, only these answers are related. Some answers might be totally unrelated, coming from a totally different chapter or competency. That is another thing you will realize when you are doing past papers or model questions more and more, right? So for this question, answer number 4. Fourth question, what's the answer? What is meant by the statement that every economic system, fourth question, no? The allocatively efficient point on a production possibilities curve is achieved where? So that's the question. Very, very easy, as long as you know what is allocative efficiency and what's the condition to achieve that. Right, I believe those who have answered have given the same answer. No one has given a different answer. That means everyone is okay, right? Very good. So first of all, allocative efficiency or allocatively efficient means the definition, it's simple, right? Allocation of resources in a way that is best preferred by the society, right? Allocation of resources that is best preferred by the society, because when you allocate resources, you can allocate them as a producer. Let's say in a market, resources can be allocated in numerous ways, right? Let's say there's a product, and in that product, a producer can decide to produce 80 units, 100 units, 120 units, 1000 units also. But sometimes the society might only want 120 units of that product, right? Society wants 120 units of that product. It doesn't want 80 or 100 or 1000. It only wants 120. If that's the case, then for the economy to be allocatively efficient, it should produce only 120 units. If only 100 units are produced, the economy is not allocatively efficient. If more than 120 units are produced, again, it's not allocatively efficient. Only when the market produces 120 units, which is preferred by the society, then the economy will be considered to be allocatively efficient, right? Then the economy will be considered to be allocatively efficient. If the market doesn't do that, we call that inefficient allocation of resources, and also we call that situation as market failure. When the society wants 120 units, but market is producing more than that, or market is producing less than that. That is called allocatively inefficient or market failure, right? Now, for this allocative efficiency to be achieved, there is one condition. What is that condition? For allocative efficiency to be achieved, there is one condition that should be met. Any idea what that condition is? It's simply marginal benefit should be equal to marginal cost. Marginal benefit should be equal to marginal cost. That's the condition that must be met. Marginal benefit means the benefit the consumers get by consuming the product, right? By consuming one product, what's the benefit the consumer gets? That is probably going to be equal to the price of the product, because we pay based on the value we get. No? So if we are paying 100 rupee for a product, that means we value the product equal to 100 rupee, right? So that's marginal benefit. Simply, someone has unmuted themselves, I think, and yeah, now it's muted. And make sure your video is kept off if you don't want to show yourself to the class. If you want to, I don't know, it's okay. It's up to you, right? Marginal benefit is simply the value the consumer gets from the product, pretty much the price. It should be equal to the cost of producing that particular good, marginal cost. To produce that particular good, how much cost was incurred, marginal cost. So when these two become equal, the value the consumer gives to the product should be equal to the value the producer has spent to create the product. When both are equal, we say that's allocative efficiency. So this is the condition that should be met for allocative efficiency to be achieved. Marginal benefit should be equal to marginal cost. Is that clear? Or in some cases, you might get this equation: price equals marginal cost. That's also correct. Is that clear? I saw someone gave this equation: marginal revenue being equal to marginal cost. Now, this, I won't say it's wrong, but this is correct only when you are referring to a perfectly competitive market. Because in a perfectly competitive market, in chapter 4, you will learn this. Students of 2022, you might know this already. 2023 students, you might not have started that. Some of you might have, I'm not sure. For you guys, you might know that in a perfectly competitive market, marginal revenue is equal to what? In a perfectly competitive market, marginal revenue is equal to price, right? So if you're talking about a perfectly competitive market, since price equals MC is a condition, is the condition for allocative efficiency to be met, and you see price is equal to marginal revenue. So in a perfectly competitive market, you can write allocative efficiency will be achieved when MR is equal to MC. Only for that it will be applicable. In any other market type, monopolistic competition, monopoly, or oligopoly, MR equals MC doesn't hold, right? So the general equation is marginal benefit equals marginal cost, or price equals marginal cost. Okay, clear? Is that clear or not? I want responses quickly. Awesome, right. So that's about it for chapter 1 questions. And you see, there are no production possibility curve related questions here, even though this all allocative efficiency and stuff you learn with production possibility curves. Directly, there's no production possibility curve related question here in the MCQs. That means when you go to the essay type part 2, there might be questions related to production possibilities curve. Okay, so we'll get there. Before that, since I have 5th question on this page right now, and that's one very basic question, what do you think the answer is? It's not chapter 1, it's chapter 2 though. Yes, Hannes, you have any doubts or something? By the way, for the 4th question, the answer is answer number 2. I don't remember I mentioned that, right? Answer is answer number 2, because it talks about marginal benefit being equal to marginal cost. Each good is produced at level where marginal benefit is equal to marginal cost, right? That's what I was talking about. The condition that must be met to achieve allocated efficiency is marginal benefit should be equal to marginal cost, or you can give the same thing as price should be equal to marginal cost, because price is the marginal benefit, right? Price means the price you give for a product is the value you get from a product, right? So marginal benefit and price are the same, and that should be equal to the marginal cost of a product for allocated efficiency to be achieved. So that's what answer number 2 says. So that's the answer. And for the 5th question, the law of demand states that, right? The law of demand states that. So again, without reading the question, you know what is law of demand, what the law of demand says. So what does it say? Simple. When price of a product goes up, what happened to quantity demanded? What happens to quantity demanded? It comes down. When price comes down, quantity demanded goes up. So that's what law of demand says. There's a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded, right? So you look at the first answer, a decrease in the price of a good shifts the demand curve of the good left. Is that correct? Does it happen? It doesn't happen, right? If the curve is shifting, that means it's a change in demand, it's a decrease in demand. And when a decrease in demand happens, last session we learned, or yesterday I put that link of the seminar session, in that you might learn that if the demand curve is shifting to the left or right, that means price of the product is constant, right? So, but the demand law only talks about price of the product and quantity demanded, nothing else. So price has to change. That means the curve doesn't shift when price changes. The law of demand states that when other things remain constant, that means what are these other things here which are remaining the same? So when they say when other things remain the same, what are these other things? Very good. The other determinants of demand, such as, what are those other determinants of demand? Price of related goods, consumers' income, consumers' preference, taste, number of buyers in the market, right? Future expectation of the price, and there can be other factors also. So they are the other factors. Those are the other things which are remaining constant. If that's the case, if other factors are remaining constant, higher the price of good, lower the quantity demanded. Higher the price of good, lower the quantity demanded. So that's pretty much what the demand law says. Right? That's what the demand law says. You look at the third answer, it says the opposite. When other things remain constant, higher the price, higher the quantity demanded. Here we are seeing a positive relationship. That's not what the law of demand says. Law of demand says there's a negative relationship between price and the quantity demanded of a good. So when price goes up, demand has to come down. So answer number 2 is the answer, right? And fourth answer is also talking about a decrease in the price of a good shift the curve outside. No, it doesn't. When there's a decrease in the price, there will be a movement along the curve only. Curve doesn't shift, right? Fifth answer is also talking about a change in the price causing the curve to shift. It doesn't. So the answer for this question is answer number 2, right? So again, see, even though this question, the answer is pretty straightforward, all the other answers are related to what I asked you to watch in that seminar video, right? Curves shifting left, right, and all of that. You have to be very clear on that part, because I told you most of the questions from chapter 2 in MCQs, when it comes to MCQs, comes from or comes based on that effects of determinants on demand and supply. Change in quantity demanded, change in demand, change in quantity supplied, change in supply. That's why I asked you to watch that video. Okay, so some of you had watched that. I think a lot of you had watched that. I'm not sure whether you watched it completely or not, but I believe those who watched it completely and got the benefit out of it. I think we'll leave the MCQs here and go to the essay questions now, because that's the main part of these sessions now. Essay question. Right. So you see, in part 2, we have section A, section B, and in section A, minimum 2 questions, section B, minimum 2 questions. But in total, you should do 5 questions in total in part 2, right? So you have to choose maybe 3 questions from A, 2 questions from B, or 2 questions from A and 3 questions from B. Those stuff I have talked about already. Now you see this question, first one. What is meant by scarcity? Explain the problem of scarcity using production possibilities curve. It's a 3-mark question. Okay. So no need to type the answer. Tell me what would be the structure of your answer. How would you structure it? You can unmute and say that, or you can type and say it. What will be your structure? Will you draw something, or will you just write a certain thing? How will you do it? Bint Hilmi is saying we have done this question in the first session itself. There's a small difference, I believe, in what we did in the first session and here. That's what I'm testing you guys. That's why I asked you what would the structure be. But I'm not sure whether it's the same question, but as far as I remember, there's a small difference between what we did in chapter, in the first session and what we have here. Right. So this is the thing. First thing you have to do is, what is meant by scarcity? You define what is scarcity. You say what is scarcity. Scarcity simply is what? Resources being relatively limited, insufficient, or not enough compared to unlimited ones. Right? That's what scarcity is. And it's a universal problem. Every country faces it. If you want, you can talk about those also, but the definition would suffice. First, the definition of scarcity. Second is, you see here, explain the problem of scarcity using production possibilities curve. So some of you, what you said was, you said definition should be given, correct? And then you guys said a graph should be drawn, the PPC, you should draw and show scarcity on the graph. But some of you stopped at that. You can't do that. Because you see, they are asking you, if you read the question properly, you'll see it. What is meant by scarcity? That's part one, where you say, you give the definition, you are done. The second part is explain the problem of scarcity using a production possibility curve. Explain, right? Explain. That part is important here. So you have to draw the PPC and then explain how this PPC is explaining or presenting scarcity. Right? That's what they are expecting from you. If they just wanted you to draw the PPC and show scarcity on the PPC only, they would have asked you to illustrate the problem of scarcity using PPC. Instead of the word explain, they would have given something like illustrate, right? Or else they would have given something like present the problem of scarcity using PPC. That's all they would have given in the question. They have asked you to hear, they have asked you to explain the problem of scarcity using PPC. That means you have to draw the PPC and show, okay, this is how scarcity is shown, but you have to give a caption also for that. You have to give a caption also for that. So that's what you have to give to get all 3 marks for this question. Pretty straightforward. I'm not sure whether this is the exact question we did first day, but anyhow, if you did it, still some of you gave me only definition and the graph, but here you need the caption also, right? At least a small caption. It's as if in Insta you are putting a picture, in below you have to say something. Otherwise, whoever is going through your pictures, they have no context of what you were doing in that picture, right? What you were doing in that picture. So that for that purpose, it's important. So first definition, then the PPC graph where you show, okay, you draw something like this. Call it the PPC. You can put good Y, good X, or agricultural good, industrial goods. Mark 0 here, and then just mark 2 or 3 points. One here, and the other one where? Outside or inside? To show scarcity. Out. C. So you say A and B are attainable. C is not because of scarcity. And then when in your description you might say, okay, since it's outside the production possibility region, to achieve the combination of output shown by C, we don't have enough resources. That's what scarcity is. Right? Cool. Next. So is it okay to define PPC also or not necessary? No need. PPC, you don't have to say what PPC is. Yeah, that's not the focus of the question, right? You read the question, you get the idea of what is required here. What is meant by scarcity? Okay, scarcity, the definition you say, you give, because by the definition you are answering that question. And then explain the problem of scarcity using PPC. So you don't have to explain PPC here. You just have to draw the PPC to show scarcity, and next to it, give a description of how PPC is presenting or explaining scarcity. Okay, that's it. Why productive inefficiency and allocative inefficiency are considered wasteful in resource utilization. Right. I'll give you a minute for you to structure the answer in your head. Right. For you to actually check whether you can answer this question or not. No need to write or anything, just in your head, structure the answer. Okay, these are the things I will write. This is how I'm going to start. This is how I'm going to describe this thing. Just have that structure. So my question now is, with your answer now structured in your head, do you think you'll be able to get all 4 marks with the way you have structured the answer in your head? Maybe 3. Okay. What about others? Nazrat, Afra, Amna, Rashida, Radishan. What do you think? No idea. No idea means no idea about the answer, or no idea about how many marks your answer will get. You should have some idea. At least you should be like, okay, 0. One or 2. Okay. Right. So this is the thing. First of all, you see the question, why productive inefficiency and allocative inefficiency are considered wasteful in resource utilization. Right. Now, to answer this question, you need to know what is this productive inefficiency. Right. You need to know what is this productive inefficiency and what is this, what's the other one? Allocative inefficiency. Now, these two are not the concepts you have definitions for probably in your handout, directly at least. So you might have the definition for which concepts in your handout. Exactly, Zainab. You have the exact opposite of it in your handout. You have the definition for productive efficiency, allocative efficiency. That's what we normally learn as a concept. What is productive efficiency? What is allocative efficiency? So tell me that, what is this productive efficiency? Just a simple explanation would suffice. You don't have to describe it. What do you think productive efficiency is? Right. So this is the thing. Okay. So when it's productive efficiency, right? Productive efficiency means you are using all your resources in the best way possible. And when you do that, what happens is you will be achieving the best output possible, right? And it also means you are getting the best use of all your resources, and that means with one resource, right, with one resource you are getting the maximum output that you can get from that one resource. So what I'm doing is I'm explaining this productive efficiency in different ways, but it's the same thing I'm talking about. So one is from inputs point of view, you are taking the maximum out of the input. In terms of the input you have, you are taking the maximum out of the input. Or from the outputs point of view, for the output you are getting, you are using the least amount of input. You are using the least amount of input. So simply put, productive efficiency means producing the best output at the least cost possible. At the least cost possible. What that means is you're not wasting any resource. You're not wasting any resource. If you waste resources, what will happen? You won't be able to produce the best output at the least cost. You can have your cost at the minimum, bare minimum, only if you use all the resources in the best way possible. Nothing is wasted. If you waste time, or if some laborers are there who are not working the whole time, the machine is there, it's sometimes working, sometimes it's going through some maintenance or something. If that's happening, you're wasting time, you're wasting resources, you're wasting money also. So productive efficiency means producing the best output, using the resources in the optimal way. That means producing the best output at the least cost. That is simply what productive efficiency means. And it also means when you want to increase one product, you can't do it unless you reduce the other production, because like I said, everything is already being used, nothing is wasted. No. So you want to increase one product, only way is to reduce another production. So you see, productive efficiency can have different definitions, but the idea is you get the best output at the least cost. Put that in your head. Simply put, you can say that's what productive efficiency is. Best output at least cost. It's not at least cost, it's at the least cost. Okay. That's what productive efficiency is, simply put. Now, productive inefficiency means what then? So if productive efficiency talks about not wasting any resource, using everything properly, productive inefficiency means you are not producing the best output at the least cost. You are not using all your resources in the best possible way. That means there are wastages. There are wastages. That's why productive inefficiency is considered to be wasteful when it comes to resource utilization, because we are not achieving mainly two things, the two conditions of productive efficiency, which are, anyone who can tell me the conditions to achieve productive efficiency? Zainab, you have given half of the answer. What I said two. Very good, Zainab. So full employment and full production. Full employment, full production. Right? When both of them are combined, we have productive efficiency. That means at that time only you can get the best output at the least cost. Nothing is wasted. Productive inefficiency means not full employment, no full production. That means there are some resources unused, there are some resources unemployed, there are some resources underutilized, underemployed. So that means resources are wasted. So first you say, what is productive productive inefficiency. You simply say productive inefficiency means the opposite of productive efficiency. What do you say? Okay, when a producer or the economy is not able to produce the best output at the least cost, it's called productive efficiency. Productive inefficiency. Or you can say when resources are used in a way where there are wastages, where full employment and full production are not met, that's productive inefficiency. If productive inefficiency is there, there will be unemployment, or you can say underutilization of resources. That means resources are being wasted. That's why we say productive inefficiency is it means wastage in resource utilization. So that's what you answer. First you say what is productive inefficiency, or you can start from productive efficiency and say when this is not met, it's called productive inefficiency. You can take that route also, right? That is also perfectly all right. You can go with start with productive efficiency, what it is, and say when these are not met, it's called productive inefficiency. At that time there will be unemployment, resources might be wasted, hence it shows wastages in resource utilization. Now allocative inefficiency means, again you start with what allocative efficiency is. You don't have to necessarily write what is allocative efficiency, but if you want you can. So allocative efficiency, in a previous question in the same year paper we talked about it, right? At least someone who doesn't know the definition perfectly, they can go to part 1, or no, part 1 is one day prior to this paper. No, so in that way, at least if you have marked it, you might somewhat know, okay, by marking the answer the day prior to doing this question, okay, allocative efficiency means what? Marginal benefit equals marginal cost, right? And by definition, what does it mean? It means resources being allocated in the way that is best preferred by the society. That is allocative efficiency. Then what is allocative inefficiency? How would you define allocative inefficiency? Resources allocated in a way that is not best preferred by the society. That's it. That's allocative inefficiency, right? So when it comes to allocative inefficiency, you see, yeah, MB is not equal to MC now. Marginal benefit is not equal to marginal cost now. Now, when resources are not allocated in a way that is not best preferred by the society, what happens? Sorry, when resources are allocated in a way that is not preferred by the society, what that means is resources are being wasted. We are producing more than what the society wants, it's a waste of resource. If we are producing less than what the society wants, again, it's a waste of resource. Because that means we are allocating the rest of the resources for something else. You get my point? If a society wants 120 units of a product, if the producer is giving 160, the extra 40 unit, the resources used for that are wasted, because the society only asked for 120, but the market provided more, waste of resources. If the society is asking 120, but the market is providing only 60, again, what's happening? The resources which are used for something else now are being wasted, because here the society wants extra 60 units of a certain product. That's not given by the market, because the market has put the resources somewhere else to produce something else. So those resources are again wasted. So you say that resource allocated in a way that is not best preferred by the society is called allocative inefficiency. If resources are allocated in such a way, what's going to happen? If more resources are allocated than what the society wants, so resources are wasted. If less resources are allocated than what the society wants, again, resources are wasted. So that's how allocative inefficiency explains or leads to wastefulness or wastages in resource utilization. So did you get my answer? So if you get this question, can you answer it? So here they have asked it as productive inefficiency and allocative inefficiency. Maybe in your A level, they might ask you productive efficiency and allocative efficiency, how they result in resources not being wasted, right? Maybe they can just switch it to the opposite and ask you the question. So here, why productive inefficiency and allocative inefficiency are considered wasteful in resource utilization? Why? Because productive inefficiency means resources are not used in the best optimal way without any wastage. That means resources are used in a wasteful manner. By definition itself, productive inefficiency says resources are wasted. That means there are unemployment, there are utilization of resources. So that's how productive inefficiency is considered to be wasteful. Okay, and allocative inefficiency means, I told you, resources allocated in the best way the society wants, that is allocative efficiency. If resources are allocated not in that manner, not in the best way the society wants, that means resources are wasted again. They are utilized, they are allocated more than what's required or less than what's required. So you see, your structure has to be first say what is productive inefficiency, and then say how it wastes resources. Then allocative inefficiency, what is it, definition, and then say how it leads to wastefulness in resources. Simple. Pretty much you'll be writing 4 sentences or 4 points, 4 marks. Clear? So now what do you think? If you are doing this question maybe next week or in 3 months, now what about the mark you can get? Is it still not sure, or 1 or 2 or what? Hopefully everyone wants all 4. Everyone hopes for all 4 marks. No one is be like, no, when there's 4 marks given, no one would hope for, I hope I get 2 marks. I don't think anyone would do that, right? Hope, that's what everyone's going to hope. But I'm asking, how much would you get? That you should say with confidence. Okay, 3 or 4. Everyone's going to hope for the best. Next question, I think, is a question, again, we have done in the first or the second class. What are the main functions of an economic system? So Inusha is like 3.5. Okay. The other half marks, she is like, don't care. Already I have too many marks, too much of marks, so I'll leave it. Sometimes, to be true, just out of my experience, when I did my A level, let's say for economics, I did questions, right? I pretty much did every question possible, because I told you, there's only 5 questions required, but I did 7. But when it comes to accounting, the first day I had MCQs. At the end of that itself, I knew I would get above 40, right? Kind of, when you answer whether you are confident with your answers or not, whether this question, I'm sure. There were some questions I was not sure. So based on that, I was sure 40 is what I'll get. So when I went to part 2, in my head itself, I know I don't have to do all questions completely. Right? I think you have to do, out of 7, you have to do 6 questions. The first question and the second question are compulsory. Is that correct? First question is the company accounts. Second question is about something related to partnership, and you will have something else also, right? So when I started from pretty much the last question, right? I did 4 questions there related to other stuff, and then did the second question, and then I came to the company question. That's what teachers would normally suggest. But when I did that, I know I don't have to take all the, I don't have to do the whole question, get the whole marks for me to get an A, right? Because I know in part 1 I would get 40, so here I want only 35, minimum 40 I would get there. So I was like, when I did questions, I would like give away some marks. If I can't, if it was a very difficult part of the question, I'll be like, okay, no need to do this, why worry, I'll get an A anyway, right? That's not something I would recommend you to do. But since Inusha said she wants 3.5 marks, maybe it's because in part 1 she got 45 or something like that. That's what I thought when I did my A levels. So that's why I just wanted to recollect that. Okay, but if possible, do the maximum you can. I also did in accounting. I knew company accounts, I couldn't finish the whole thing, but I did up to, until the time ends. But I didn't bother too much with this PPE. What is that? What do you call in company accounts? You have this depreciation and stuff, a separate accounts you have to fill, no? A separate schedule. So that part and all, I just filled half, and then there were decimals coming and all. I was like, I just gave up. No need. Really, Sharmila, that's great. My first term, I scored 52 for economics, and I got scared because I couldn't get an A. But after I joined your class, this time I scored 73. Nice. Good for you. I hate the depreciation part. I hate the whole accounting part. Can't change. That's why you see, I did it just to get an A and get into Columbia University. That's all I wanted to do with accounting. Once I went there for the first 2 years, I had to do accounting also. There was some, it's a general part until the 3rd year only we can choose specialize our specialization. So until then it's general. So I had to do managerial accounting, financial accounting, economics, and some other stuff also, international business, marketing, and everything. Once I started 3rd year only, I was able to choose my specialization, which I chose economics. Then goodbye to accounting. After that, I haven't turned back and looked at accounting at all. Not even to help a friend or something. Never. Even if a friend asks me for accounting, I will be like, there are other accounting people. I will contact them and just pass it over. Never have I done an accounting question after that 2nd year in my university life. And now I'm happy with economics. Very good, Sharmita. Oh, Fazlan likes a depreciation part. Okay, cool. Good for him. Right, next question. What are the main functions of an economic system? This is again, I think, a question we did, like I said. So quickly tell me, type and send me what are the functions of an economic system. So this is what I did, I believe, last time also when we went through that questions. Functions of an economic system. You just write this answer, done. The function of an economic system is simply to find solutions to the basic economic problems. And you just name what those basic economic problems are. You can't just write down the basic economic problems and get away, right? You have to say economics, the function of an economic system is to find solutions to these basic economic problems, namely what and how much to produce, or what do you call this? Another name? Very good, Inusha. Another name for this? resource allocation problem. Resource allocation problem. How to produce? Technological problem, production technology problem. Whom to produce? Distribution problem. You just write this whole thing and these other names also you mention next to each of these problems. Enough. I'm not gonna put any more time since this is a question we have talked about in the first class itself. But what to do in 2020? They have asked it. Good for you if it was it would have been good for you if that same question came in your level. 2020 students got it. Right. Next question is something important and very timely at that time. Right. 2020 students did their A level in 2021 April or something, I believe. So by that time, see, the question that was very relevant to that time is here. Explain what happens to a country's production capacity due to a pandemic such as COVID-19 using a production possibilities curve. Right. So 5 marks for this. Okay. So you have to do some big stuff here. 5 marks, not even 4. So first, how would you answer this? What would your structure be for the answer? How would you show this? How do you write the answer for this? You have to show it in PPC, right? So how would you show it in the PPC? Okay, Rimaz, is Nadeed still here? Zainab Mazir, Hasna Zaib, Haniz. How would you structure it? How would you explain? You have to draw. Okay, Halana, good explanation. Similar to economic decline. Okay. So what I'm getting here is from what you guys are saying, some are saying it will lead to recession. Some are saying it will lead to kind of an economic decline, depression. So which one do you think is true here? Which one would happen? Economic recession or economic depression, decline? Right. So here, the question is, you have to read it properly and see. Explain what happens to a country's production capacity due to a pandemic such as COVID-19 using a production possibilities curve. So it's not, they are not asking you to say like, okay, when COVID-19 struck, what has happened to a country? They're asking when something like, they're asking when a pandemic strikes. For you to understand what is a pandemic, they have given such as COVID-19, what will happen to the production capacity of a country, right? Let me get to the whiteboard. So this is what's going to happen. First of all, you need to know, thank you. First of all, you need to know this, how severe this pandemic is, how severe the effects of this pandemic is. That depends on the pandemic, how serious it is. Right? That depends on the pandemic. Sometimes what happens is some pandemics, in some countries, even if you take COVID-19, in some countries, it led to thousands and thousands of people dying. Thousands and thousands of people dying. So in that case, there's a severe, serious impact on the resource availability of the country, right? If that was the case, in those countries, there would have been a reduction in the production capacity. The production capacity would have dropped because we see a decline in resources available for production. That is one way of looking at it. So here, this question, since some of you said, okay, production decline, some of you said recession. But the thing is, all of you are only half correct, because all of you took one side and explained that only. Right? All of you took one side and they explained that. Here, you are supposed to explain both. You should say, okay, if this pandemic is serious and if it leads to a huge reduction in resource availability of the country, or in some way productivity of the country, production capacity will drop. How will you show that on a PPC? When the production capacity of the country is dropping, resources available in the country is dropping, how will you show that on a PPC? Right, you show it by an inward shift on the PPC curve, and you can parallelly reduce it if you want. Somehow there should be an inward shift. That's how you show a drop in production capacity. This can happen actually if the pandemic leads to a severe drop in human lives. Possible, right? So that's one side of your answer. If it's severe, it will lead to economic decline because resources might die, because of that resource available for production might go down, so production capacity will drop. One way of doing that. Or sometimes, it can be a drop in productivity also. If human capital, that's also people, if they die, human capital will come down. Management might get, might worsen. Because of that, again, production capacity drops. That's one probable thing that can happen. Yes, Inusha, this is depression. That's what I'm talking. It can lead to depression or economic decline. Or else, like the other half of the class suggested, it can lead to what? Economic recession. If the pandemic has struck, but the country didn't let that pandemic spread a lot. What they did was, like Sri Lanka initially, they put a lockdown. So when they put a lockdown, will the economy see a decline or will the economy see a recession? So when you put a lockdown, what happens is the availability of the resources are going to remain the same, right? When you put lockdown is for what, 2-3 months, right? So the resource availability is going to be the same. Because of that, the production capacity, this red line, the PPC, production production possibility curve, that will remain the same. It's not going to come down because it's just a lockdown. The resources are still there. We can possibly, if the lockdown is lifted, all these resources can be put to work. We can achieve full employment on the PPC curve. But when lockdowns are put in place, lots of producers are left with workers not coming to work out of because of this lockdown, or maybe because of fear of contracting this disease. In that situation, what will happen? The resource is still there, the labors are still there, the machines are still working, it's there, but the usage of those resources will drop. So how would you show recession on a PPC? Very good, Zainab. Right. So you have to mark a point on the PPC curve and say from the PPC you are shifting in. Or what's the other way to show recession? There's another way. Right. You mark a point already inside PPC, but from there you are coming further in. There's a already you are unemployed to some level, but that unemployment is increasing. That's what recession is. So you can you have to actually draw these two movements from A to B and C to B. Both are recession, right? So both this decline and recession can happen due to COVID-19 like pandemic hitting a country. How that affects the country's production capacity depends on how severe that pandemic has hit the country. If the pandemic has hit the country in a very severe way, killing a lot of people, making a lot of people so much disease that they can't go and work again, leads to a lot of drop in human capital. That means lots of specialist doctors die, specialist engineers die, IT tech people, lots of software engineers die, professors are dying. If that happens, what will happen? That will lead to a drop in production capacity. The PPC curve will shift inside like shown here. So you can't just draw and get away. You have to draw and then explain what? Or first explain and then draw. You have to first say if it's severe and if it takes lots of lives, it will lead to a reduction in human capital or labor. That will lead to a drop in production capacity. That can be shown by a shift of the PPC inside, shift of the PPC curve leftward. Or if it's not that severe, the second part of the answer, if the pandemic has hit a country, but the country took precautions, they locked down the country and stuff. And if that's the case, there will be less human life loss. Right? Resources might remain the same but due to this lockdown and all, resources are available, but they may not be used. So unemployment increases. That's what unemployment is now. Resources are available, but they are not being used. That will increase. That's why people will lose their jobs. So production will drop. So recession will happen. But once the pandemic is over, resources are available, the economy might expand again. So this is how your answer is supposed to be. But at the end, you will have an explanation saying if the issue is severe, capacity will drop. You will have the PPC showing the curve shifting in. On the other hand, you will have an explanation saying if it's not that severe, just due to these lockdowns and stuff, there might have been a recession where capacity remains the same, but production might go down due to resources not being used fully. And you might have drawn this red PPC, recessions one. So you have to have all of them drawn and explained to get all 5 marks. Easy. So everyone before this question were perfectly able to get about 2 to 2.5 marks, but the question is 5. You have to write both decline and recession explanations to get it. Is that clear now? Right. So next question. Explain why the division of labor causes increase in the level of production in an economy. So here, first of all, you need to know what is this division of labor. Anyone who knows what it is? Very good, Nazrat. Others, what do you think? What is this division of labor? And this is something you might have learned in detail, I believe, in business studies. Yes or no? Have you learned this in business studies in detail? As, given that you are doing business studies? Yeah. So the thing is, actually in business studies, division of labor is one major part of how, this whole commerce and stuff came into being. If not for division of labor, sometimes we might not have these businesses and commerce all, existing at all. Right. So first of all, you don't have to, for this question, you don't have to define division of labor. But what they're asking is explain why the division of labor causes an increase in the level of production in an economy. Right?
Sure. Here's what the internet says. Economic growth is an increase in the production of goods and services in an economy. Increases in capital goods, labor force, technology, and human capital can all contribute to economic growth.
Okay, see, Bixby knows. Okay, so getting back to the question. So first you need to know what is division of labor, right? And what is division of labor? I'll explain in a very simple way. So this is how division of labor works. Let's say you have a certain production process, right? Let's make it a one directional thing. So you are making a bottled water or something, or making cars. Now you will have different parts to be done here, right? You need first to get a bottled water at the end product. You need to first you need water in some level. You need first the bottle at some part. So we'll start with the bottle now. So bottle should come in and the bottle should be cleaned. And then the bottle should be labeled. And then the bottle at some point, the water should be put into the bottle. And at some point, the lid should be put on the bottle. And then all those, labeling and stuff should happen. And then the product goes to the market. If you take car production, the engine part is there. Then all the tires should be fixed. And then the exterior should be fixed, the doors and all the covers and stuff. And then the painting and stuff, everything should be done. It's one whole long process. Division of labor means this long process is broken into small parts, and into these smaller parts people are assigned. So if a group of people will be only focusing on part 1, another people will focus on part 2, another people will focus on part 3. What will happen is here these part 3 people won't go to part 2 work. They won't even know what's this part 2 work. And part 4 people will only focus on part 4 stuff. They will get trained on part 4 how to do that part only. They won't go and get trained on anything else. So that is what division of labor is. One whole production process is broken into small parts, portions, and labors are assigned to, or group individuals or group of labors are assigned to only one particular portion or part. That is division of labor. Now the question is, why this division of labor leads to increase in the level of production in an economy? If you go to production possibility curve, there are 2 reasons that can increase the production capacity of a country. One is introduction of new resources, increase in the available resources. The other one is increase in productivity. Under the increase in productivity, you will come across this management, improvements in management, improvements in technology, techniques, and improvements in human capital. And also you will have increase in division of labor and specialization. Right? Mainly that's where you come across this division of labor in economics. In BS, you might have come across this in a bigger way, but again, division of labor, I just said what it is. And the question is, what are the advantages? Pretty much how it leads to increase in level of production. So you have to say that. So you can't just give points. You have to give points and explain the points. That's what they're asking. Explain why the division of labor increases, causes increases in the level of production in an economy. So this is how it works. First of all, what division of labor does is it leads to specialization of skills. So let me go to this page, the whiteboard. First thing it does is, it increases or creates specialization, specialized labors, or it results in labors getting specialized in whatever they are doing. Right? Increase in specialized labors. So when we have laborers who are working only on one thing again and again and again and again, what will happen? On the first day, they might be able to do only 1 or 2 things. But if they do the same thing for a year, 1 year later, they can produce 100 units in the same time with their eyes closed, because they have been doing this thing repeatedly so many times. Because of that experience, they become specialized, that they gain that specialized skill. Right? So division of labor leads to increase in specialized labors, increase in specialization. That will lead to increase in productivity. What will happen? Production will increase that way. The same person who was only able to produce 2 units the first day he came, now can produce 100 units in the same day, because he's specialized. Some doctors, if you go to, it's kind of a complaint also, some people say, when they say, okay, I go to the doctor, he's experienced, he's famous. I went to him, he just asked 2 questions, I answered in 2 minutes. He said, okay, this is what you should do. He asked me to go. Has it happened to you or someone you know? You go to a doctor, they just ask 2 questions and they write something, give 2 minutes. You pay 2,500 and come. Has it ever happened to you or someone you know? Yes. Some might be angry with those doctors and all, but why this is happening is, when the doctors are so experienced, just by looking at the reports and then just asking these 1 or 2 questions, they can decide, okay, this is the problem. And earlier, when they were trainees, when they were starting their profession, in an hour they might have treated only 2-3 people, because they would ask all the questions they have to ask, right? Hundreds of questions to decide what this person has. But with 30, 20, 40 years of experience, now they look at the report, they ask 2 questions, because they know only these 2 questions they need to decide what the issue is. So they ask that, the patient tells them this is the issue, they are like, write this, go. But this is an issue when inexperienced doctors do this. That's not good. That's where, patients get wrong medicines and stuff. If an experienced doctor is doing something like that, it's because of specialization. If the doctor actually has that specialization, that's okay. If the doctor doesn't have that specialization, but he thinks he has, that's the problem, right? In some cases that can happen, right? So because a certain doctor, let's say it's an eye surgeon, he or she only focuses on that part. They know in every single issue that can come when it comes to an eye. So when the patient comes, in 2 minutes they can decide, this is the problem, this is the solution, go home, give me 5,000, right? So because in 1 hour now they can treat 25-30 patients. Earlier they treated only 2 patients. So what has happened? Output has gone up because of specialization. So that is one reason why output goes up, due to division of labor. Because if every doctor specializes in everything, this can't happen. Because this eye surgeon, he is specialized in eye because he was only treating eye related diseases, illness. If he was treating everything, now he can't treat a patient in 2 minutes like that, right? So increase in specialized labor will lead to increase in output because of division of labor. That is one. Is that clear? Point 2, you can say increase in productivity. Increase in productivity. This is again related to the first one, but you can write them as 2 different points, because first one is about due to division of labor, specialization increases, that leads to increased output. Second is increased productivity. With less resources or with the same resource, now you can get more output. Less wastage in a way. So with less resources, with the same set of resources, you get more output now. Why? Because this guy, with the same time, this doctor, due to this specialization, due to division of labor, he got specialized, and because of specialization, now in the same amount of time, he or she is able to treat more patients. Someone who is a tailor, that guy can produce about 100 shirts in 2 days maybe, but when they were starting, they might be able to do that to produce in 2 days, they can produce only like 5 shirts. Now they know where to stitch, what to do, and all of that stuff. First one is increasing an increase in specialized labor, right? Increased in specialized labors, or increase in specialization, you can write it that way. Second one is increase in productivity, that leads to an increase in output. Another thing you can actually write is, when division of labor happens, it actually saves a lot of time. Saves a lot of time. How it saves time? Again, just this doctor example you can take. The doctor doesn't need 30 minutes to treat a patient anymore. He just treats 2. Right? Because he only knows eyes. So when whoever comes to him are only coming when they have eye disease. No one goes to an eye surgeon when they have something wrong with their feet. Right? No one's gonna do that. So it saves time for them, the doctors, and also it saves time for the consumers also. They get their product, they get their service immediately. If you go to a general physician, taking, when you have something wrong with your eye, that guy will be like looking at it, ask you a lot of questions, and then he'll be like writing a prescription saying, go to this eye surgeon. For that, you will pay 1,000 rupees. Right? Has any output come there? No. Because general physician almost, they look at everything, but they don't specialize in anything. So they take so much time, and also most of the time they will suggest, if they don't know, go to a specialist person. So that's a waste of time. So division of labor actually saves time. Division of labor actually saves a lot of time. By saving time, by not wasting stuff, again, you can see an increase in output. Right? An increase in output, because with division of labor, since certain person who is doing that job, he knows how to do it. So he will only do that. He won't be running around looking at other stuff. He will only stay at his position, doing his stuff. So time is saved. So that same resource can be used for more work now. Saves time. Another important thing about division of labor is, when a person is working on the same thing day in, day out for years, they will identify, okay, after a certain period of time, this is what I have to do, but the process I'm going through is not the best one. There's a better way to do it. They will find new ways to do the same task, because they are so used to doing this. They will understand, okay, this is what I do, this is the output I get, this is the process I'm going through, but I think I can do it in a better way. Those inventions might come, those new machineries and inventions come in because of this division of labor. Because of someone who is specialized in certain thing, they'll be like, this part I don't have to do. The same thing I can do it in a short time by doing it in another way, using another machine. Right? So those inventions and introduction of these new machines come in as a result of division of labor. Kind of innovation thing, right? Because if you take, making a phone or making a beverage or juice or something. Earlier, let's take a juice shop. Initially, before machines and everything, they might have taken the fruit, peeled all the exterior parts, and then by hand itself they might have made the juice. They might have squished it and everything. Then someone who has done it repeatedly might have thought, this peeling all these exterior portions and then squishing it and getting the juice and stuff is kind of a waste of time, because that's not what I should do. I have to give juice to customers. What if I come with a easier way to do this? Then they might have come up with some machine, a very simple machine, which will squish these fruits. For orange and all, you might have seen in these street vendors who sell orange juice. They use a certain handheld or hand rotated mechanism that will squish the orange, get all the this thing out. You might have seen it. So how did that come to be? Someone who was making it by hand got so used to it and knew, okay, this is the process. I don't have to squish it. I don't have to do it myself. Let's use a machine that will save more time. That will enable me to do more work. A hand squeezer. When you say it like that, it seems like a very violent something a serial killer might use in a kind of a horror movie or something. Not a horror movie, a terror movie. A hand squeezer. Very creepy, yeah. But I don't know, maybe that's what it is called, that that tool that is used to squeeze these oranges and stuff, right? So those innovations, how did they come to be? Because of this division of labor. Someone was making these only this squeezing these pulp and everything. Someone who was used to that might have come up with like, why am I doing this? Let's use this machine for it, something like that. Some call it lime squeezer as well. Lime squeezer is okay, not that creepy, right? So that also you can write down. New inventions, new machines will be introduced. So let's write it that way. New techniques, or you can call new techniques or new machinery will be invented, right? New techniques, new inventions introduced as a result of division of labor. This happened actually to me also when I was working at HSBC after my A levels. There was a certain process I was doing, and everyone else was like doing lots of stuff, but my work was only focused on this one particular process. So what happened was, there was one issue there that has been going on for a very long time, right? It was related to share market and stuff, account keeping and all. The thing is, it has been there for years, that issue. I went there and worked about 9 months only until I get to university. After A level, until my university started, I just worked there, right?
I didn't understand that.
Okay. So until my university started, I just worked there. At that time, what happened was, since I was working on that particular instrument, that trade instrument, security, I was able to find out a way to solve that issue. I came up with a new technique which we can use. If we do that, the problem that they have been facing for so many years can be solved. And at that time, everyone was like coming to me, congratulating me for just telling that, right? For me, it was like a very obvious thing, because I was only doing that part mainly. Everyone else was doing lots of other stuff. I was new, so they trained me on 1, 2 things only. Since I was doing it repeatedly 2, 3 months, I found out there's a better way to do it. I suggested them, and I think now it got implemented or something. Now I'm not there now. So for university, I left. So though they happen, those kind of stuff happen because of these, what do you call, division of labor. If they have trained me on everything, then I wouldn't have been able to find the solution for this one particular problem. I found it because I was only doing that mainly. Okay, division of labor results in that also. Anything else that you can come up with? One more point. With new technology, new technique inventions, output will increase. You can write that also, reduction in wastage. Even though it is implied in other points, you can say that also. Again, reduction in wastages. How? Because of this division of labor, this person has done this works repeatedly. He won't be wasting any raw materials, wasting any or breaking machines or anything. They will do all the work smoothly. They will do all the work smoothly. Someone is saying, what about the quality of goods? Here the question, the thing is, quality of good is an advantage of division of labor. Yes, but look at the question. The question is about how will it result in an increase in production. It was never about the quality of the output. That's why we can't give that answer. Is that clear? That quality of the output will increase, actually, true. But the question was about how it causes an increase in the output in the country, production. Because of that, the quality part you don't have to mention. If you mention, sometimes you might not get the marks there, right? So that wastage part would be a good option if you can't think of anything else. Okay. And another thing you can actually give is reduced training. Division of labor leads to reduced training and stuff. If you go to a company and there are hundreds of processes to do, and if they train you for all 100 processes, how long it will take, how much time will be wasted, and it will be difficult for you to learn also, right?
You don't have an incoming call.
Now this phone it's too much now. Usually it talks once a class, now it's 3 times. Have to check and see, right? So this training requirements will be very less. Why? Because you are not, the new person who is coming in is not going to work on the whole set of processes. That person is going to work on only one part. So the training requirement is only for him to or her to be able to do that one particular part only. So you can train them easily for that part. Training means there's lots of money is also spent for that. Sometimes for the training itself, you are paid salary. There are others who come and train. For them, there's money going. For training, time is going. It's valuable. Lots of money is spent for training and development in a company, in an organization. So all those money can be reduced now. Training requirements are reduced. Why? Because of division of labor. One new employee coming in will be trained only on the part they were supposed to work, only in their division. They are not supposed to train in everything. You get my point? So that will again lead what? Leave all the other resources to be used on other stuff. That will lead output to go up. Ultimately, everything is related to how this division of labor creates specialization, improves productivity, saves a lot of time. That might lead to some new technologies coming in, new techniques coming in, with people not wasting their resources a lot. Right? So every sentence we have given almost talks about similar stuff, but you can give them as different points and give a small description of each point. What is specialization, how it's happening, and how it leads to increase in output. Increase in productivity, how it happens due to division of labor, and how it leads to increase in output. How time is saved due to division of labor, and how it leads to increase in output. So for every point, you have to give that. Okay, so that's how you answer this. Since they are giving 5 marks, I believe you have to write 5 points. Right? They are giving 5 marks now. I believe so. Yeah, 5 marks. So 5 points you have to give. Is that clear? This is great. So today we finished chapter 1 in 2020 LL 2020 paper. Nice. So can you show the points again? Points are here. Increased specialized labor or increase in specialization among labors, increased productivity, division of labor. This is what we are saying. Division of labor, how it's resulting in increase in output through increase in specialized labors, through increase in productivity, by saving time, by introduction of new technologies and inventions, reduced training requirements. So what is the Z-score needed to enter Colombo University? When I entered, it was close to about 1.7-ish, 1.8 something, I believe. At that time, mine was 1.98, close to that 2 mark something. So that's what you, last year, I don't know, I have to check and see. So close to that. Normally for Colombo University, if you are in, let's say, island rank within 1,000-ish, 1,500-ish, you can get in for Colombo. Yeah, that's around that, I believe. The island rank, not the district rank. District rank, I believe it should be close to 800, 900-ish. You should be there within that range. Because the first batch will go obviously Japura top, then Colombo University, and then everywhere else. Okay. I actually forgot my island rank and stuff. I have to check and see. If you get 3 A's, obviously you can get into Columbia Uni. That's the idea. And there were 2-3 people in my set itself who got 2 A's and 1 B for business studies, still got into Columbia Uni because their Z scores were above 1.7-ish. Right? I think with that, we can end the session for today. The quiz is still, the challenge is still there. I think I should give it for you to do it separately. So, during this week, so we can discuss it maybe next week. And we'll discuss more. For next class, we'll take one chapter, one question, one whole question, with 4 or 5 sub questions, and one question from chapter 2, because we have to go there also, I believe now. Right? So I will send the questions within about 3-4 days. You can attempt it, and then we'll discuss it in the next class. See you all next week. Have a great week ahead. You're most welcome. Barakallah.